Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Lead Your Tribe. My name's Kyle Wood, and with me is my co-host.
Dale Sidebottom, how are you, Kyle?
Good. Dale's just well, you'll be able to see this because this is our first episode on Dale on Dale. This is our first episode on Dale. This is our first episode on video, and you'll be able to see Dale lassoing, and you'll be able to see me wildly gesticulating throughout the entire call.
Awesome, mate. You can get
How you
those
going,
hands
Dale?
going everywhere. I'm actually, I just spoke to you a little bit before. My voice is a little bit hoarse. I've been running a number of virtual sessions lately that, like when I think about what I'm actually doing, it's so crazy that yesterday I had 150 Year 7 students in Darwin that were running this virtual fun session. Today I had 140 Year 8 students. I can't see them. I'm running an hour and a half session. So the energy that I'm bringing is crazy, and I think they like it. I've been getting some nice messages that it's gone well, but at the end of the day, I don't know. So 2020, it is a bloody strange year, Kyle, and I would have never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing, but at least I'm working, and it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw that picture of you the other day that you guys are married now. Yeah, wife took, and yeah, of you like doing your thing, in your office in front of your laptop, and yeah, it's pretty different.
It's mate, seriously, just jumping and like getting excited at a screen. I find it really hard because you don't get. It's like anything. The more you do, you just sort of become. This is a new world we live in, but
yeah.
It's like running our face-to-face sessions. It's that interaction. It's the response you get that I don't actually get that now. So, and that's where sometimes my timings may be a little bit off because I don't actually know when to start or when to finish the next one. So you're sort of waiting on a message, go on to the next one, do this from the teachers in the room. And I did a corporate one yesterday. Anyway, it is cool. I'm feeling healthy and fit because I'm not traveling anywhere. So each morning I get up, I've got my routine, and then I come and present, and then I'm done and I can do other things. Whereas normally now I'd be at an airport or I'd be flying somewhere. So there are positives with everything going on. And yeah. So anyway, how have you been, mate?
Yeah, I've been really good. We can talk a little bit more about it at the end. Of course, it gets to me. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, I'm putting together this group, the fellowship, that we're going to be doing like a 3-month program together. And that's actually a conversation around that's actually one of the things that's inspired today's episode, which is all about how to be yourself online, which I don't know about you, but saying that out loud, it's like, well, you just be yourself. But the reality of it is much trickier than that, isn't it?
It is, and it's one of those, I suppose it's like anything, the more you do something, the easier that becomes. But when you're starting out and you haven't done much of it, do you know what? There are people and there are armchair critics everywhere. And a lot of the time, what I've found is that these things I used to worry about, people don't even care because they're so busy living their own life or doing their own thing.
Yeah.
You just need to get started, mate.
Yeah. We inadvertently, it's just part of the human condition, isn't it? That we like sort of put ourselves as the center of the universe.
Yeah,
we get really paranoid about what other people are thinking about us. But the reality is that everyone else is the same. They're like worried about what everyone's thinking about them. Brene Brown has that great thing about like when we see someone else being like really vulnerable, we see it as courage. But when we do something vulnerable, ourselves, like, put a video on Instagram or, write about something we care about, we see that vulnerability as weakness. We see it as an opportunity for people to attack us. So that might be a good place to start, is that just flipping that and being like, if I post this, if I share this with people, if I be myself, that's actually just doing that without coming up with any clever content or anything like that. Just doing that is going to help give someone else permission and the courage to maybe show up as themselves in their own life too.
Yeah, and mate, I could not agree more. But actually doing that is really hard. So
yeah,
like you said, that is amazing, and I couldn't agree more. But I'm probably in a position like yourself that I've been putting myself out there for so many years that I'm comfortable with who I am. My online presence is very similar to the person I am. And the people in my tribe that follow me and yourself, do you know what I mean? They know that person, they like that person and are happy with that. But I think the biggest thing is here with obviously being yourself online is that you need to accept that person yourself. You need to be happy with who you are and what you're putting out there. And I don't know. I don't really have any advice besides you just need to keep persisting, keep doing it. You need to keep turning up. And probably the biggest one is don't copy other people. Like, don't look at what other people are doing and say, oh, I want to do that and try and be them, because people will see through that. That's not authentic. That's not who you are. But it's easier said than done, isn't it, mate?
And it'll be exhausting as well if you're trying to constantly emulate someone else rather than be yourself when you're online. Like, you'll get burnt out really quickly too, because and then you'll start feeling like a fraud, and that's going to add all this other stuff that you don't need to deal with right now. So I think it'd be interesting to try and break down what maybe those first few steps are. So the first thing we're saying is that it will get easier. So let's put that light at the end of the tunnel. But actually, like, finding your voice, finding what that sounds like, because for so long with the way, like, so you are a teacher, with schooling, we've talked about schooling before, but, with schooling, you kind of taught to have the same voice as everyone else, unless you had maybe a good teacher who really encouraged that part of you to flourish. So we end up writing and presenting a version of ourselves to the world that we think the rest of the world wants to see. And what tends to happen then is that we tend to scrub down all, like, the edges of ourselves, which is the parts of us that are interesting. It's the parts of our personality that people connect to, because they're like, oh, I do that goofy thing too. But if we're so paranoid about creating a version of ourselves that's accessible to everyone, then we end up, like, losing that ability to be able to connect, because people can't connect to us if we're like this ideal version instead of our actual human self.
And I think that's where I do a lot of podcasting with other people, and they say, oh, I'll go back and edit out all the ums and the pauses and the ahs. And I'm like, well, that's how you speak. That's who you are. So when you have a conversation with someone normally, do you somehow edit that out? And no one speaks perfectly. And I always have been told, and I'm a big believer in this, that you should embrace your imperfections. That's, as you just said there, Kyle, that's how people are going to relate to you. If you're perfect, if you're using filters and you got this amazing tan and you look shredded all the time, like, people don't relate to that, because that's not normal. If there are imperfections you have with the way you talk, the way you do pauses, different things like that, people like that. That is how you build a tribe. That is how people can actually relate to you. Because if you are perfect, then people feel, I don't know, what's the word, inferior. They're like, oh, they're so good, I'll never live up to that. I don't want to put myself out there because I won't be as good as that person. And that's not the way to be. My thing is, and with any video I do now, Kyle, or anything, I've got a rule. It's one take. And if I stuff it up, then that's part of the video. Do you know why? Because that's what's happened. And if you can spend all day on one video, or you can do it once, upload it, get it done. People may only watch it once and they won't even notice. Who cares? Again, it comes down to time as well. If you want to make everything perfect, then you'll probably end up doing a third or a quarter of the work you could do without embracing your imperfections and building that audience that follow you because they like who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then that helps you be consistent as well, which I think we'll talk about in an upcoming podcast episode. So, we can get stuck at that. We can get caught up in perfectionism in doing it again. But part of what we need to do is just ship it. We need to hit the send button. We need to hit the upload button. We need to hit the publish button, because that is how we learn, how we get things out there. Yeah. So definitely start where you're at. And I've got a bit of a story to share about my experience when I first started blogging, because I've done that for like 10 years now. It's like grown into how I make a living.
A decade. Well done.
Yeah. It was 10 years in July, and that boot camp ideas has been around, and I completely dropped the ball, which is with everything that's happened this year. I didn't do any sort of celebration, so maybe we'll do a big 11th birthday, and I'll work out something fun to do. But yeah, back when I started, I wrote at a blog called kylewoodfitness.com, and you can probably find a version of this website somewhere on one of those archive websites. And I really wanted to write. I wanted to share. I was, early days as a trainer. I wanted to share with people about the stuff I was learning about nutrition and fitness and movement. And I was very passionate, as we are as trainers, about the people in my life knowing, how important it was to exercise and move. And because I was in that phase as well, where I was like, oh my God, all my friends are going to die of heart disease. And if they don't start exercising. And so part of why I wrote these blogs was as a way to sort of share information with them as well. But I really struggled with writing, because after finishing writing something, it always felt like the article felt heavy. Like there was too much in it. I was trying to explain too much, or I went into too much detail, and I didn't read the articles of people who I liked watching, or reading their stuff online. And same with videos. If I recorded a video, it'd be 10 minutes long for me to say the same thing that someone I really like would say in a 1-minute video. And there'll just be all this extra words and stuff. And I'm reading a book at the moment called On Writing Well, which by William, I can't remember his last name, which is really helpful about this. And he talks in the book about how with your writing, you want to go back and almost get rid of 50% of what you've written. Because he's we do add all these, unlike video where you leave in it is good to leave in all that stuff, but to go back and just get rid of all those filler words, because they're actually getting away from your message. And what will usually be left is your actual words and what you're trying to say, because the stuff we tend to add is the stuff that we feel like we need to add, because we've been reading our bank statement, and it's got all these corporate letters and stuff like that have all this extra filler. Political stuff has all this extra filler words, and we add it into our writing. And often when we're doing videos in the early days, we add it into our videos. And I've noticed doing retakes of videos, the more times I retake it, the worse oftentimes the video gets.
You keep adding more.
Because then I'm overthinking it as well. Yep. And I'm overthinking, and I'm thinking about stuff, and it's not just flowing. And so same thing with your writing. The writing is opposite. You want to go back and try and get rid of a lot of words. And that can be a really helpful place to start in even writing descriptions for your Instagram posts and stuff like that. Go back, break it down to the simplest words. Don't feel like, as trainers, it can be really easy to get, although I guess this podcast not just for trainers anymore, is it, Dale? But as
everyone,
no matter what your profession is, you can get really bogged down in feeling like you need to explain every single detail, every single step, and that's not powerful writing. That's a tutorial. That's the manual to your oven, who gets their manual out from the who gets that out and just reads that for enjoyment? They don't. So you actually want to err on the side of under explaining yourself. Let the people reading it come to the conclusion that you're trying to make, rather than pointing it out really obviously. And if people have questions at the end because you haven't explained maybe things in a way that they understand, that's actually a good thing, because it means they're interested in what you're writing, and it means they're engaging with it. But if you constantly over-explain yourself in videos, in writing, there's sort of the two big ways people put things out at the moment. You're not leaving that space for the reader or the watcher to kind of insert themselves into the conversation.
I like that. And I was just listening going and I think this is another great point, putting yourself out there online. I don't like writing. So if you're same as me, Kyle, don't do much writing. Do you know what I mean? I am very minimal with what I write, because I don't write as well as I can talk. So then how do I put myself out there online? Well, predominantly through either photos, video, audio, because I feel I can build a better connection with the audience and my message comes across better. So I think anybody listening, that there's so many mediums or ways for you to engage with people, build your tribe, but don't do it in a way that isn't like natural or authentic for you. If you struggle writing and you don't like it, you're probably going to put it aside and you won't do it much. So don't worry about writing much. Do minimal instructions or minimal writing and find another way that really suits your personality, your style, and what you're comfortable with. Because like starting to put yourself out there, if it's something that is really challenging, really tough, and you're not going to do it. You're going to find ways to find excuses. You're going to procrastinate. And that is a lead way to fail, because you're not going to get yourself out there. And people can see through that. When I do a lot of writing, people aren't going to relate to it because the writing's rubbish. So instead of that, start doing a video. And I think this is the same with even equipment and everything. Even if you don't have the best equipment, I know first YouTube videos I released about 8 or 9 years ago. It was a really windy day in St Kilda in Melbourne, and like I didn't have any mics or anything, so it sounds like we're in a wind tunnel and we're playing these silly games and things. And the games are great, but all the comments are like, "Oh, are you in a wind tunnel? Geez, it's windy." So like, it doesn't matter though. Like I got them out there, and I think it's the same as anything. Now I realize, you need to have wireless mics. You need to have lighting. You need to do it in better situations. But the only way you figure that out is by doing it, putting yourself out there. Yeah. And I look back at them now and I laugh. And I always say this as well, Cole, go back and listen to our first podcast and that. They are cringeworthy. But how do you get better? It's by doing it. And it's the same as the same with your writing. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got to start somewhere. You started with your Coldwood fitness blog. It may you'd probably look at it now and go, that is yuck. It doesn't represent me. I don't like that. But that's who you were, and that shows the growth you've had by putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and that's where it starts, because by writing something, putting something out there, or doing a video and being like, I wish that was better. That's actually a good thing, because then the next time you do it, you're going to it's very iterative, like bit by bit, it's going to become better. But you have to start somewhere. And there's a video I'm going to link in the show notes, or I don't know, maybe I can work out a way to put it in here. We can even listen to it. It's by Ira Glass, who's an American broadcaster, does This American Life in the US. It's a great thing on creativity, and he talks about how when we start out, we have this vision of this thing that we have, like in our mind, we have this vision of this thing that's like, it's awesome. It's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be da 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 da. And then we sit down and we try and record the video, or we try to write it out. And it's what we actually create is nothing like what the thing is that we had in our mind. It's nowhere near as good. And that's like, a lot of people stop there because they're like, well, this is crap. Like, I don't want to deal with this. But that's where everyone starts. So we all start there, and then we do the next one, and then it gets a little bit better, and we do the next one, it gets a little bit better. Yeah. But that's where you sort of alluded to it earlier about comparison, like copying other people. But comparison, also we were talking about earlier, is just comparing yourself to other people can be another reason not to start, because you see what they're doing, you see the level they're at, but you don't know everything that's gone in to get there. There's a guy I follow. I was talking about the Ready State the other day, Kelly Starrett. He's been running stuff online for a while now, probably about 10 years. And I was like thinking about how, it's just sort of the progression of where he's come from, sort of these like videos on someone holding a phone, to like, they've got like a professional area where they can like film all their videos, and someone actually like filming with proper camera and sound and everything. But the old videos I used to watch weren't even his original videos. He'd been doing stuff for like 10 years before that were even worse quality, even more rough around the edges, that I hadn't even seen. I just came across them the other day. And it's so, like we see the end result, but like he's had 20 years he's put in to get to that point. So,
so
start where you're at.
You can't ever, that's the thing, like you can never, ever compete with that. And nor should you. You shouldn't want to compete with that. Do you know, this is a hard thing to say, but I look at somebody like that and I'm like, wow, that's amazing what they've been able to do. Imagine if I start now, what I can do in 5 years, 10 years, and
That's a
use
great
them
way
as
to look at it.
motivation, not
Yeah.
comparison. And that's again, it is very hard when you start out because you'll get. You don't get much feedback from anyone at the start besides sometimes like, oh, you mucked this up, or there'll be negative people, armchair critics that do you know what I mean? They're probably trying to be nice, but it's not what you need to hear. And they don't realize what their words are saying. And you'll get 99 good comments and you'll get one bad one, and that's the only one you'll focus on. And it takes a long time to be able to overcome that. And what I've found is that you just need to keep going. And a lot of the time, that one negative comment is not a reflection of you. It's the reflection of the person saying it, because they want to probably do what you're doing. They want to put themselves out there, but there's something stopping them. So instead of being positive or embracing what you're doing, they'll find an imperfection in what you're doing. So I love the idea, and I love looking at what people are doing. And I know when I started down, I'm like, I'd love to be able to do that. And that's great. Use that as motivation. But now what I'm like is like, once you start, you find that you're different than everyone else, and you need to be different than everyone else, because if you like someone else, they'll follow that other person because they're better than you. So you've got to embrace the imperfections. You've got to get started. Don't let armchair critics shoot you down. And the only way you learn, it's like progressing in years at school. Each year your writing gets better, your singing, your counting, your sport. It's the same as your videos, your blogs, your audio, your websites. It gets better each year with the more work you put in. It won't be perfect at the start, and don't expect it to be.
Yes. So circling back to being yourself online, I guess the reason we've ended up talking so much about getting started in comparison and things like that is because I think we use that as an excuse to stop starting. To stop starting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, to not
stop starting. Not getting the ball going. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And just in that way, like, you know, using these excuses to stop starting. But yeah, another excuse that does come up is the one about like, I don't know how to be myself online. But what we're saying is that will take time, and your voice will start to emerge the more that you use it. Yep. But yeah, so don't feel like that what you're going to create to begin with is going to feel 100% like your voice or 100% representative of you, because to start with, you are going to be kind of drawing on other people. For those of you who like numbers and systems, one rule you could start applying is a 2-to-1 rule. That's like the 2 ears, 1 mouth thing. So, you know, in terms of your consumption, so listening to other people, browsing social media, things like that, for every 2 hours that you spent doing that, you should spend an hour creating. You should spend an hour doing something and putting it out there into the world. So not just like creating it, but actually like getting it out so other people can get help from it as well. So that's a good rule too, because often that goes way out. We'll consume 20 hours of stuff for 5 minutes of creating, and then we wonder why we can't find our voice. And it's like, that's because we've got all this noise of these other people in our heads. And if you look back through history at like great creators, musicians, you know, writers, and now like filmmakers and stuff like that, if you look at how much time they spend creating, it's a huge chunk of their day. It'll be like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of their day that's dedicated to creating, not reading other people's books or browsing their Instagram. So that can be a really good way to develop your voice. Really practical tip.
Because I know a lot of people probably think, oh yeah, but that's research. But I look at it, it can be research to a certain extent, but then it becomes time wasting and procrastination, and it's just another excuse. Oh, I'm searching, I'm viewing other content. Whereas I sometimes think that that's just another way to put off, actually, like you said, putting yourself out there, getting started. And it reminds me of, like, you know, when you finish primary school or intermediate school, elementary school, and you go to high school, as a teenager, you don't know who you are. You're still trying to figure out so many things, hitting puberty, all these things going on. It's very similar to starting like your online journey or putting yourself out there as a name, a brand. that you don't know exactly who you are. And the only way to figure that out is by speaking up, getting your voice out there and growing. As puberty hits, very similar. Once you start online, you will start to figure out what works for you, who you are, the people you like, the people you follow. But, by just reading and waiting and talking about it, saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, that is not a way to grow or develop or actually see who you are online.
Yeah. Yeah. So this podcast, Dale, will be like 30 to 40 minutes long.
Yep.
So I guess our advice at the end of this would be, you just spent 30 to 40 minutes listening to us talk. Now go spend 15, 20 minutes, creating something, doing your own writing. And at the end of that 15, 20 minutes, extra goal, complete whatever it is that you're creating. So whether you're doing a video, complete it, publish it. So you got 15, 20 minutes to create something and put it out there in the world. Although, I mean, the reality is I'll go and edit this and spend a bunch more time. But this is about you.
Yeah, it is. Exactly right.
And hitting that send button is one of the most, some of these conversations I've been having with trainers, and we've talked about this in other episodes. It's like spending all this time creating a product or, a series of articles and things like that in secret. So people do the creative, but that's the last element. It's like you actually have to then get it out into the world in some way. And there's so many tools and platforms and things now to do that there's not really a reason why you can't do that.
Yeah, just hit send. That is the easy part I find a lot of time. And this particularly when I was starting out, because I didn't feel I had the expertise or the authority to be saying these things or justifying why I was doing it. And now I think with time you just hit send and I don't even think about it.
Right? Almost
I don't
in
even
a way.
think about it. Yeah.
Because, for me it's almost like a relief because it's like, okay, it's done. I can move on to the next thing now. But, like the more time you put on in the thing, put on, the more you can get just stuck in that, developing that thing. So, take that weight off your shoulders and just hit the publish button. And you'll probably feel a lot, well, maybe actually the first few times you'll feel really nervous.
Yeah, you will.
And then you'll sit there and you'll refresh your social media. You'll sit there and you refresh, waiting for a comment. And then like we talked about before, no one will even comment on it. You'll get a few likes.
No one even
and all
cares.
this stuff you got worried about won't happen. But as you keep doing it and people keep watching you show up and they get to come on that journey too. They start watching your voice develop. They start seeing you show up differently and they start getting to know you because you keep showing up, because you keep sending stuff, because you keep publishing, because your voice gets clearer and you begin to understand what it is that you want to say. And in that process, that's then how you'll start resonating with people, how you'll start engaging. Then you will hit send on something and, people will be like, reaching out to you and wanting to talk and things like that. So start where you're at. It starts with that habit of creating and hitting publish.
Yeah.
And that's how you find your voice. We don't have an exercise for you that you can sit and spend, an hour today, that suddenly at the end of it, you'll become an expert at sharing your voice. It is one of those things where it's like, just start and get started.
Yeah, and I think Nike, who's probably my favorite brand, says it well. Just do it. Do you know what I mean? Like you've just got to start somewhere, Cole, and get it out there. And you won't build a tribe or a following straight away. That like was said on so many interviews and conversations we've had, that is consistency. Your consistency of showing up, putting yourself out there, having quality content that is authentic to yourself, that is when you start building your tribe. Right. And then you start leading. And the way you lead is by being consistent, showing up, being yourself, not copying other people. And you do it week in, week out. And it takes time. Nothing will happen overnight. And if you expect that and if you're waiting for praise, I can guarantee no one will be patting you on the back. It's not like in Little League or little athletics at primary school these days where everyone gets a ribbon. There's nothing like that online. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you do take away anything from this, just get started, embrace it, and you don't expect a pat on the back because it's not going to come.
Yeah. If you do really need a pat on the back, though, we'll say you can join our Facebook group.
Yeah.
And tell us, and we'll give you a big thumbs up. Yeah.
We'll get in there.
But that's one way. If you are looking for like someone to say great job, which I think we, a lot of us are, then come find Lead Your Tribe on Facebook. On the Facebook. On our
was drop the. Is it time for it?
Yes.
Right here, right now.
That was a good one today.
Was it? Thanks, mate. And my voice is shocking. I'm sorry for listeners that I might. And this is like, just be yourself. Like I don't think I've got a very nice voice. And then when you do a lot of presenting, it gets a lot worse. But just keep showing up because we all have those days, I suppose, where you may not look your best, or you may have a zit, or your hair's not doing what you want to, or your voice sounds like a really off chainsaw. Well, just embrace it because that's who you are for the day. So, Kyle, would you like to start or me? What have you been up to?
Well, you just made me think of how I think especially becoming a father really taught me about that, like showing up no matter how you feel.
Yeah.
But, and I'd read about the concept for a while, and Seth Godin, who I really like reading, he talks about it quite a bit. Like, like no one cares if you're tired, like, not in like a mean way, but just like, the people that you're serving out there, your clients and things like that, like they still want you to come and give them something. So finding that reserve in myself that I didn't know I had, where I could still sit down and do work and get out there and engage with people. And oftentimes it made me feel better, for doing that.
Yep.
So that was just something that came up then when you're talking about that.
Well, that's essentially just game face, isn't it? That like, people don't care if you're tired. People don't care if you don't have much energy. Like it happens. And some days are harder than others and you just got to push through. And again, that's what everything we're talking about. You just got to get going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. So what's been happening, mate?
Well, speaking of tired, so this is like peeling back the curtain to my personal life with sleep and toddlers. So we've found this group really helpful. They're called Possums. They're based in Queensland. Possums online, and basically they're like do a bunch of research around sleep for kids, and they've just released some stuff on toddlers as well. And it's like no sleep training, no like cried out type stuff. So for parents out there who are like it's a touchy topic with parenting because if you have done sleep training, you're listening to this, or sleep school, whatever, it's not the wrong thing. For us, it was not the right thing. It was not an avenue we wanted to go down. And we found this possum stuff just really awesome way to like engage with our child and help her develop like a positive feelings around sleep, which in turn has helped her sleep. So we didn't have to do anything where we had to like sit in another room and like listen to her like, sort herself out or anything like that. Like it's much more hands-on. Just like with anything, we're talking about like becoming better at stuff. Their philosophy is really around, kids need to learn how to sleep like any other skill. And they've just got some different ways of helping you teach them how to sleep. So I found that really helpful. So I just thought for other parents and also for you, Dale, because you're going to have a little one soon, their stuff's really good, and it makes a lot of sense with other sleep stuff that I've read before.
Cool, because I've have been told a lot about that, Kyle, that sleep's one thing that you may be lacking a little bit. So possums, all right. We can put that in the show notes, mate. I'm sure people would be interested to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just like I feel like the two women who run it, like super inspiring the way that they've like really dedicated themselves to like becoming experts at this thing and get them. And it's like, it's like $37 as well. Like you'd think, like coming from this online marketing world, you'd be like, oh, this will be like $1,000 info product. And it's $37, so they're really like making it affordable to all parents. Sorry, my hair's falling in my face.
That's cool.
I need to get a haircut. Yeah. So there you go. Possums. Pass it on to Brie as well. She can start watching some of the stuff now.
Possums. All right, I'll get on that. Yeah. Nice, mate. I like that. Mine is something that I was going to share. I've been pretty excited about. Now, I don't know, when was the retreat we did in Phillip Island? How long ago was that? Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2018 because it was right before my daughter was born. So it was like August 2018.
Zoe was quite large.
Yes. Yeah, she was in the
normally
last
don't say. I'd never say to someone, "Oh, you're
here
large."
She is like cooking for us and doing all this stuff for us. She was amazing. Yeah,
she was. She did a really good job. But I remember it was really powerful. And this is what you created, Kyle. But we all sort of put things out there that we wanted to achieve. And one of the things I said is that I got a book idea. And
I know what this is.
Yes, I got a book idea, and like I've been working at it for 2 years, and I finally signed a deal with Wiley Global Publishing. So,
wow,
yeah, pretty excited, mate. So, I've got a book that Virtual High Five. Thank you, mate. So, May 2021, the book will be out around the world.
Wow,
so
that's quick.
It is. So
8 months. Yeah.
I think because I wrote the first one, I do things pretty quick. I wrote the first sort of my idea in I think 40,000 words in about 7 days, and
wow,
that was 2 years ago now. So I've got a few other experts and professors and things on board to back up my ideas, and sort of essentially around play and how you can sort of bring more fun into your life. So I won't give away too much of the title and everything like that. But as far as something that scares the absolute crap out of me, as I said, I'm not a good writer. That this is something that was on my bucket list. Doing a TED Talk and writing a book are two things that really scared me. And I believe that you should always be trying to strive to do things that scare you, because that's when you grow. And so this is one thing, trying to, obviously get this sorted. And it's something, I'm pretty proud of. So, I'm excited to share that with everyone. And for the lovely ladies who are on the retreat, I know when I said that it's been a long time, and I just wanted to say I've achieved that goal. It's not published yet, but we're getting closer.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I know you've been telling me about that in secret over the last few weeks, and that's really exciting that that's all locked in now.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. So now it's all locked in. I've told them what I can deliver. Now I've got to actually do it. So. Just show up and do it and put in the work. And I think that's essentially what we're talking about today. So there you go, Kyle. You said it was going to be, what did you say, 35, 40 minutes? That's nearly spot on the money. Hey, you're a man of your word. I like it. Well, thanks for today, everyone, and first episode of Lead Your Tribe. As we said in our last episode, that we are going to get some new guests on that will be from all different professions and areas that have built tribes and communities in different ways, because that is the way you learn from other people doing great work. And I know Kyle and myself will continue to do episodes like this where we pick a topic and we share ideas, because we've both had a lot of expertise and years of doing that. But we're going to try and get some new people on here, some new voices as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be great.
All right, mate. Well, be good. Enjoy possum. Is it like prime possum? Prime possum is awfully cuddly. Remember prime possum? Or is that a country thing? It's like that. Is that a regional?
That might be a country thing. Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Oh, well, every night at 7:00 on Prime back in the day, there'd be this possum that would come on and go, Prime. Anyway, I'm not going to sing it again, and that's when you'd go to bed, because Prime Possum would be on TV. There you go. I'm learning something from just being a country lad. Prime Possum.
Maybe they did inspire it.
They might have. All right, mate. Well, thanks for today. I appreciate it.
Yep. And thanks, everyone. Let us know what you think of the new name, the new look of our faces in your podcast editor. Like, if you can leave a review for us.
Oh, that'd be...
absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Or if you come to the website and there's a little video there you can watch too. So maybe come check that out as well.
Legends. See you later, great man.
See ya.